Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the Abomasnow in the Open Great League. And honestly, I was a little bit surprised about the last regional because Abomasnow was pretty common, but also what was more interesting for me was that the most common variant of this one was the normal variant. Usually you see the shadow variant way more commonly instead of the normal one because like you're going to have a little bit more damage output with it, as well as you're going to have usually access to the move Weather Ball, but here we're going to run Icy Wind, and Icy Wind going to allow us to do quite some interesting things. You're gonna see it here as well today in this video. Definitely stay tuned. This team was amazing. I went 17 and 8 throughout the day with this team, and honestly it was super good. Would have been even a little bit higher if I played a little bit better. Moving on to the second game here, we're going to have a fairly decent lead for us, but we're going to have two Pokemon in the back that are going to be even better. And this is kind of how you want to play it. You're going to have an Ice type in the lead. This is going to be great against Pokemon like the Gligar, but the Gligar also doesn't really appreciate the Annihilate. But because we know already that they have the Greninja in the lead, I'm going to actually do something interesting here. I decide to use a shield, go for another Ice Punch, and then afterwards I'm going to decide to use another shield because it's going to allow us to realign. With us, we know that the Lantern is going to get its target, which they most likely going to have an answer in the back for, and we're going to see what's coming in now. Next it's going to be, let's see, it's going to be a Nidoqueen, and this is perfect because now we don't have to align our Lantern. They swap out into the Greninja. I can catch the move onto our Lantern, and the best thing now is that I can just go for the full farm down and get a ton of energy, which is going to be super important against the Nidoqueen from the opponent, as Surf is our only really damaging move. They can get the attack buff here, but it doesn't matter as the opponent decides to forfeit. Moving on, we're going to have a horrific lead here. We're going to see the lead of the Poliwrath, and so we can swap back into our Annihilate. There are some certain situations I think where I might even use the save swap of the Lantern. We might see it on this video as well. But here we're going to see as well the Clodsire coming in. I have to say as well with this team that I don't think that I was like extremely lucky in terms of the teams that I faced. I had like a lot of really tough matchups that I had and still came back from it, which is kind of also a nice indication that this team is just really good in general instead of just, yeah, okay, you got lucky with some matchups or whatever, because yeah, this team was actually really good, I have to say. Here we're going to see a big mistake by the opponent. This was a little bit too much of an undercharge, as we can still go for another Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball is going to do a ton of damage, more than Ice Punch would do, and we can now go for the full farm down against the opponent. We're going to use a shield here just in case that this stone should do a little bit more damage than I expect, and we can swap out now immediately into our Lantern as the opponent can now forfeit. Next opponent coming through, we're going to have a Pelipper in the lead. And this is the thing as well, I encountered so many Pelipper in the leads. Like honestly before, I've never seen this Pokemon at all really in Go Battle League, and now I encountered them all the time. But it is a playable matchup. If you go for the Energy Ball, you can actually just go for the full farm, and afterwards here I decided to go for the Icy Wind, which maybe was not really ideal. But at least you're going to be able to shield up the Hurricane from the opponent as they can go for another charge move. This is only going to be the Weather Ball. And if you realign your Pokemon, it's usually a great thing to have with this kind of team here as well. So let's see what we can do here. We can go for the Icy Wind. The opponent actually uses a shield, and we are going to be able to still farm them down and realign. As the opponent swaps into a Galarian Stunfisk, we can go ahead and go for the Icy Wind here, which is going to be amazing. But in comes now the Venusaur, and this is the issue for this team at least. If you get rid of basically your lead and the opponent has a Venusaur in the back, there is not a lot that you can do about it. You're going to have an okay matchup actually with the Annihilate against the Venusaur. Like if you have one fast move advantage, you're always going to be able to win this matchup. But yeah, we don't have the one fast move advantage. The opponent had the one fast move advantage, and my only play was here to catch a move, which I was hoping that it would just one-shot me, which it didn't, and so I can still try to go for an Ice Punch. And I did not know that we would lose CMP. I think we would have lost no matter what, so it does not really matter, but still kind of unfortunate there. The next opponent, a great lead for us. We're going to see the Gligar, but it's actually not as great as you might think, because Gligar is next to the move Aerial Ace, which they're going to outspeed me now because I'm not running Weather Ball. And so this matchup is kind of neutral, but the opponent swaps out into a Skarmory, getting completely hard-walled immediately from our Lantern. Here, there are certain ways you can play this matchup. Basically, if they go for a Brave Bird here, I feel like it's kind of nice because then you can go for a Surf and knock them out. But I decided to actually go for the Thunderbolt. Like, it's a little bit awkward because Thunderbolt going to, of course, force the knockout, but you don't really have that much energy left now afterwards. So, like, it is always kind of ideal to farm them down, which is in the best possible way. Like, that would be really nice, but it's usually not happening. So here we're going to be able to just go ahead and go for a Thunderbolt still with the energy that we stored against the opponent's Lantern. They can go for their own Thunderbolt, and unlike you might expect here, I would actually go for the Surf, which is better, but like unlike you would expect, I'm not going to go into my Abomasnow, which would completely resist everything. But okay, now the opponent goes into their own Pokemon, so it doesn't really matter. But like I would have went into my Annihilate because yeah, Annihilate does not really have a great matchup against the Gligar, and so this would be definitely the way to go. But no matter what, we're going to be easily able to win this game. We can farm them down, have an Energy Ball stored, and we can say goodbye to that Lantern, as Abomasnow is a great core breaker in the current meta. Honestly, this team is amazing. I would really recommend you to try it out if you have those Pokemon. It's also a really, really cheap team to build. Like, all of those Pokemon are things that you could have easily. Like, for example, Annihilate. Recently, we had an event for it. Abomasnow. We also, I think, had recently even an event for this. At least we had, like, the winter time anyway, where this Pokemon was spawning everywhere. And Lantern has been, like, in the meta basically for the last 2 years. So, like, if you don't have this Pokemon, that's on you. But this team was so nice to play. Literally can really recommend you this team. Really, really strong one. Here we're going to see that the opponent can still go for a Mud Bomb and knock us out. But we can now go ahead and go into our Abomasnow. And we just gonna go for the full farm down. I don't really care what the opponent tries to do here. Most likely gonna go for a Skull to try to debuff me, which of course works out for them, but at least we're going to end up with a 100 energy, as we can still go for a move against the Lickitung here. We're gonna be able to get some decent damage onto them, and I can even reach another one, which is going to get them even lower. But now we have to hope that there's going to be something in the bag that we can beat with our Lantern, and it's going to be a Sableye. This is not really a bad matchup, but it's also not really a great matchup either. It's very neutral, but since basically they changed Spark, in the long run this should be a great matchup for us, because Spark is just, yeah, doing so much damage that we're gonna put them into range where Surf is already enough, which is kind of wild, because yeah, before Spark was not really doing that much damage. I still don't understand what Niantic thought about the Spark change. Basically, it did not really make any sense. It literally killed every Pokemon that has Spark, other than Lantern, where Lantern got better because he had the bulk on Lantern to actually benefit from the extra damage from it. So I don't really know what they tried to do here. I tried to catch a move here, which definitely did work out, as I can now go ahead and take this one. The opponent is going to be forced to stay in here. We can go for one more Spark and we can knock out the opponent with one Thunderbolt, and this is going to be a very good game there. Moving on, we're going to have a Sandslash in the lead. Horrific one for us, and this is where you want to swap into the Lantern, usually at least. This is what I did here, for example, where I did go into my Annihilate, but later on I decided to go into my Lantern, because Lantern can still take one Drill Run from the opponent, and you're still going to have your Annihilate in the back. So Lantern Say-Swap is not really that bad in the current meta either. For example, against Gligar, you still would win the Zero Shield scenario against it, usually, if you have like one fast move advantage. So if you play this again, like, I would definitely recommend you to rather go ahead and go into your Lantern there, which I did then back like later on as well. Maybe it's in this video as well. I just put like some random battles from the middle of my gameplay in there. By the way, I went 3-2, 5-0, 5-0, and then 2 times 2-3, where I definitely had some battles that I could have won as well, and was sometimes kind of unlucky, to be fair, but definitely a really good team to play, so definitely would recommend you to try it out. We're going to see here the Charger Bug. Charger Bug is going to be a little bit of a trickier one for us, but we can take one extra, we can go for those Surfs, and we're going to be able to do a ton of damage against the opponent. As you're going to see the Surf connecting here, we're going to be able to just go for another one here afterwards, which is going to, yeah, definitely knock them out. This is really good that we had a CMP tie here, because they had actually energy for 2 of them. And so we can get the knockout against the Charger Bug. This is going to be great, as now there's only going to be the Sandslash in the back, and we can still try to go for a Thunderbolt. We have a move stored, and now we decide to swap out into the Abomasnow. They could have most likely farmed me all the way down, but because they didn't, I know that I can reach the Thunderbolt, and with this, we're going to be able to win this game, as they cannot get to another move afterwards. And Thunderbolt from this range should be enough to knock them out. Let's take a look at it. Thunderbolt connecting and gonna get the knockout. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have the Vigoroth in the lead, which is going to be okay for us. Yeah, we're gonna have to swap out kinda, and the opponent decides to stay in and forfeit. Good game there. Next opponent, we're going to have, I think they actually got to top 8 in Liverpool, so congrats to them here. And we're going to have Snowman, which is going to run the Pelipper in the lead. This is, again, a very tricky lead for me. I can go for the Icy Wind. Should have maybe went for the Energy Ball instead in the future, because Energy Ball just going to connect, like, that's a little bit more damage there, which is kind of better for us. We can still go for the Icy Wind, which is going to get another debuff onto their attack. And as I went for the Hurricane, it's going to be a matchup that I'm definitely going to be able to win if I use another Shield shield here, which I decide to go for. The opponent goes for another Hurricane, and with this we can now farm them all the way down, but they decide to swap out into the Lickitung, which is amazing for me, because I can just go for the Icy Wind. Now they do less damage, I can overfarm by quite a bit, just barely not reaching the next Icy Wind, because I think they would have been able to outspeed me with Body Slam, and with this I can just go into my Annihilate, go for the Ice Punch later on, because I think I have to go for it, but the opponent actually goes for their own charge move, which is a little bit annoying. We're gonna see the Body Slam connecting here, and we can still at least go for the full farm down because of this. Let's see what's coming in here next. What do they have in the back? It's going to be the Whiscash, and so we're gonna be forced to go for the Shadow Ball here, which is going to do a little bit more damage, but the opponent decides to use a shield, and so I can only reach another Ice Punch afterwards. Whiscash going to be a little bit tricky for my Pokemon in the back with a Lantern, so I'm forced to go for the Energy Ball, but they did not swap out, and with this we're going to be able to connect this one, get the knockout, and win this game without even showing our final Pokemon. This was a funny battle because you're going to encounter here another Abomasnow, but what is also kind of interesting is that the opponent is not running Icy Wind here, even though they went up to the Icy Wind energy and we won CMP type because our Shiny is actually the best one that I have available right now. We're going to see as well that they're only going to run the Weather Ball, which is going to be a little bit better in the long run, but here right now it's going to actually allow us to just knock them out before they can knock us out, which is going to be nice, so we can definitely realign here. And we will see as well that they're going to swap out into the Jealous, and I can only reach an Icy Wind, which is not really ideal for us, but it is what it is. I cannot swap out. I have the Annihilate in the back. This would be not really ideal for us, so I'm forced to go into my Lantern. They swapped out into their Lantern. It was a little bit laggy there, and honestly, this is the thing as well, which happens to me quite often in this kind of matchup, where I decide to go for the bait more often than I should have. Here's something, for example, where Night Slash on the Annihilate would be really good because it gives you guaranteed damage and guaranteed basically shield pressure, but the opponent actually decided to no-shield this one, which was really annoying. I can no-shield the Surf, but at this point they're definitely not going to use another shield here, they're already too low, and honestly maybe I should win for the Ice Punch here again actually, because now the opponent gets the full farm down here, which is going to be 3 hex worth of energy, which is a little bit annoying, and it's down to our Lantern. I'm going to use a shield immediately, it's going to be the Shadow Ball, and as you're gonna see here, we're gonna do a ton of damage with Spark. So my play at this point, because I still have 2 shields, is just go for the full Spark down. Can we do it? We can maybe survive another Shadow Ball. Can they even reach a Shadow Ball? We're going to find out. One more fast move would be what we need here, and sadly they're gonna get the knockout here. Fairly certain if I played it better I would have won this game as well. Next opponent, Bastion in the lead. We're gonna swap out still into our Annihilate. Main reason for this is just that Lantern is still kind of fine against Bastion, so like that's going to be okay for you. And it's very likely that they're going to have something like a Victory Bell in the back, and you don't really want to have that aligned. So like, even though of course it would make sense to keep your Annihilate around for the Bastion, in most cases, basically they're going to have Victory Bell that they're going to swap into, or like the Wigglytuff, which is not really ideal, but yeah, again, like it's going to be better for you to still go into your Annihilate, in my opinion. Here I should have waited out maybe the clock a little bit more, because thought the matchup would be a little bit taking longer because the opponent still had energy on the Trevenant that they just did not use. And like this, I'm going to use a shield here, expecting they're going to be the Wigglytuff in the back, which I was correct about. So yeah, it is going to be again this kind of typical team, which I just hate to battle against. Honestly, this is kind of why the Great League meta is just so bad. I know I showcased a toxic team before, and I know, yeah, I know that a lot of people just running it because it's also easy to play, but I don't know, for me in the current meta, there has to be something that breaks again, something like give Clodsire maybe a boost or something. That would be kind of nice, or the Nidoqueen would be a great Pokemon to counter those teams here, but yeah, right now it is just so free to run those kind of teams, so just kind of sad. I decided to swap out here. Maybe should have tried to get up to another charge move with my Lantern first, but this was actually a CMP tie, which is amazing, because this can still allow us to maybe win this game. The opponent makes a great play by undercharging, and we just have to hope that we can basically get to 2 serves in time. It's going to be super close. We can still reach another serve, but can we actually get here to the next serve as well? We can, and the opponent is gonna go down 1 HP in a Lantern because of this amazing swap into the Abomasnow. Next opponent, Talonflame lead. Horrific lead for us. We're going to be forced to swap out into the Annihilate. As said again, like you see a lot of matchups here where I really get walled and have like those really bad matchups, which is cool for you because you can see at least how to battle against those. Here we're going to get out the Lickitung, which is even worse for us. Like, it's literally getting worse and worse the entire time. But what I kind of have to do here at this point is I have to hope that the opponent is letting this move go through, because my play here is basically going 2 shields down. Because if I don't realign, this game is over, because the opponent would have again the Abomasnow against the Talonflame. What am I gonna do there? So, I was able to actually realign my Pokemon. I still have a Shadow Ball stored, which is going to be amazing, because I swap out into the Talonflame, they're for sure going to give me a shield back. And with this, I can at least align the Lantern against the Talonflame, which is insanely important. As the opponent swaps out into the Cresselia, I can still try to go for one Icy Wind here, but this is gonna get the attack drop onto them. But is it going to be enough to still flip this matchup? We're going to have the perfect alignment basically that we wanted to have. Otherwise, we would have had the Talonflame against our Abomasnow and the Lantern against the opponent's Cresselia, and then like, oh, the extra shield doesn't really help us either. So like this, we're going to be able to just go ahead and go for the Energy Ball, going to do a ton of damage, but they can now get the clean knockout against us, and it's going to be a tough one to come back from, because the opponent still has access, of course, to Grass Knot. And I'm gonna go for the Surf here, expecting that they're most likely gonna swap out later on. Let's see what they're gonna try to do here. They're gonna go for their charge move. They're debuffed. They're single debuffed, so it's not gonna do as much damage as it usually would do. And so we can take this a little bit easier, but there's still this Talonflame around. And so we can take another Brave Bird here from the opponent, which is great that it's Brave Bird, because now we can get easily the knockout and they cannot go for 2 flies. And we can now hopefully spark down the Cresselia, and yes, we can. We're actually able to win this final game. Hope you enjoyed this team. A really good team to play. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, maybe you'll enjoy the video that's on the screen as well, and I see you then. Bye bye.